I never told anyone what I found in the payroll system at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. Not until the work dinner 3 months later when everything finally broke open. My name is Alex Torres. I'm 31 years old and I work as a senior accountant at a mid-sized logistics company in Denver called Transflow Solutions. I've been there for 4 years, which is long enough to know where the bodies are buried but not long enough to have buried any myself. The company has 83 employees. We move freight across 12 states. The CEO is a man named Victor Hale who built the company from one truck in 2003 to what it is today. He visits our Denver office once a month from headquarters in Chicago. I had never spoken directly to him until that dinner. I had prepared for 18 months to make sure that when I did, he would hear exactly what I needed him to hear. Before I tell you what happened that night, leave a comment that says, "Watch, if you believe the quietest people sometimes see the most." There is a particular kind of silence in an accounting office after the last person leaves. It is not empty. It is waiting. Every spreadsheet holds a breath. Every file cabinet keeps secrets. I have spent 4 years learning to hear the difference between numbers that simply sit there and numbers that are trying to tell you something. The sounds are not the same. A balanced sheet hums. A manipulated one whispers. I started at Transflow in 2021, fresh from getting my CPA license. The job paid $52,000 a year, which was enough for my small apartment and my student loans and not much else. But I was grateful. My manager was a woman named Diane Marsh. She was 47, sharp, and known for running the tightest department in the company. She interviewed me herself. She asked one question that stuck with me. "Can you keep your mouth shut when you know something important?" I said yes. I did not understand what she meant for a very long time. Diane was a good boss. I want to say that plainly because everything that follows gets complicated. She taught me the real work of accounting, not just the school version. She showed me how to read what numbers actually say about a business, not just what they claim. She defended me when the operations team complained that I asked too many questions. She brought me coffee when I worked late. She remembered my birthday. She was the kind of person who made you feel like you mattered to the company, not just like you worked there. In 2022, she promoted me to senior accountant. The raise was $8,000. I thanked her for 3 weeks. She laughed and told me to save my energy for the quarterly reports. I thought I had found a place where hard work was actually seen. I thought I had found someone who would look out for me. I was half right, which in some ways is worse than being completely wrong. The trouble started in January of 2024. It was small at first, the way these things always are. I was running year-end reconciliations when I noticed a pattern in the bonus distributions. Transflow paid annual bonuses based on performance metrics that Diane controlled. She entered the recommendations. HR approved them. Payroll processed them. I had seen the system 100 times before. But this time, something caught my eye. 3 employees on my floor had received bonuses that did not match their performance scores. The scores in the system were average. The bonuses were exceptional. 2 of them were Diane's direct relatives. Her nephew in operations. Her cousin in sales. I checked again. The numbers were real. They had been paid. I sat at my desk for an hour after everyone left, staring at the screen, hoping I had made a mistake. I had not made a mistake. I did not confront Diane. Not then. I was 29 years old and she had been my mentor for 3 years. I told myself there must be an explanation. Maybe the performance scores were wrong. Maybe the bonuses were corrections from previous years. Maybe I was seeing something out of context. I made excuses the way people do when they do not want to believe what is in front of them. But I also started paying attention. I started keeping notes, not on my work computer. On a small notebook I bought at a drugstore, dark blue with no logo. I dated the first entry January 14, 2024. I wrote, 3 bonuses inconsistent with performance metrics. Total value $34,500. DM signatures on all approvals. I did not know what I was building yet. I only knew that I needed a record that existed outside the system I was starting to question. Diane noticed nothing different about me. I smiled in meetings. I delivered my reports on time. I became very good at being the same person I had always been while watching everything more carefully. February brought more discoveries. I found 2 additional payments that did not match the records. These were not bonuses. They were classified as consulting fees to vendors who did not exist in our approved supplier database. The payments went to accounts that traced back to addresses Diane had listed as personal contacts in her emergency file. The total was now over $60,000. I still said nothing. I still hoped I was wrong. Then in March, my own bonus came. Or rather, it did not come. I had exceeded every target that year. My review with Diane was glowing. She used words like indispensable and the future of the department. The bonus letter she handed me showed an amount that matched my expectations. But when I checked my account, the deposit was half what the letter promised. I asked payroll. They said the amount matched what Diane had submitted. I asked Diane. She said there must be a clerical error. She would look into it. She never did. By April, I understood what was happening. Diane was running a system. She approved inflated bonuses for people connected to her. She created fake vendor payments that went to accounts she controlled. And she was taking the difference from people like me who would not make noise. People who trusted her. People who were grateful for the job. I was not angry yet. I was something worse. I was disappointed in a way that felt permanent. I went to my parents' house that weekend. My father asked how work was going. I said fine. He told me a story about a man he worked with in the 1990s who stole from the company for 6 years before anyone noticed. The quiet ones, my father said, they're the ones who see everything. But seeing isn't enough. You have to know when to speak. I thought about that all the way back to Denver. I thought about Diane's question in my interview. Can you keep your mouth shut when you know something important? She had been testing me. She had been looking for someone who would stay quiet. In May, I made a decision. I would not stay quiet. But I would also not be stupid. I called an employment attorney named Patricia Okonkwo. Her office was downtown, near the courthouse. I told her I had found financial irregularities and I was not sure who to trust. She listened for 40 minutes without interrupting. Then she asked 3 questions. Did I have documentation? Was I willing to testify if necessary? And had I considered that the CEO might already know? I said yes to the first 2. The third question stopped me. Victor Hale had built this company. He visited monthly. He signed off on major decisions. Was it possible he did not see what was happening in his own accounting department? Patricia said something that changed my approach. Sometimes the person at the top is the last to know. And sometimes they are the first to know but the last to admit it. You need to find out which one he is before you decide what to do. I spent the summer of 2024 building a case. Not against Diane alone. Against the possibility that the whole system was rotten. I documented every irregular payment. I traced vendor accounts to their source. I cross-referenced performance scores with bonus distributions. I worked late, alone, when the office was empty and the silence was waiting. Patricia reviewed my findings monthly. She said I had enough to file a whistleblower complaint with the labor board. But she also said that once I did, my career at Transflow would be over. Even if I won, even if I was right, I was not ready for that yet. I wanted something else. I wanted to look Victor Hale in the eye and see what kind of man he was. I wanted to give him a chance to be the kind of leader who fixes things instead of the kind who looks away. So I waited. I watched. I prepared for a moment I was not sure would ever come. Then in August, the invitation arrived. Annual leadership dinner. All senior staff. CEO attending. Diane would be there, and so would I. The dinner was at a steakhouse downtown called the Copper Room. Private dining area. 23 people. Victor Hale sat at the head of the table. Diane sat 3 seats to his right. I sat near the middle, between the operations director and the HR manager. The room had dark wood and low light. Everyone was dressed carefully. This was the kind of event where careers were made or unmade in conversations that lasted 90 seconds. I had been to 3 of these before. I had never said more than polite greetings to the CEO. This time, I had a plan. Patricia and I had rehearsed it. The goal was not to accuse. The goal was to create a moment that could not be ignored. A question that would force the truth into the open. I watched Diane work the room. She was excellent at this. Warm with the right people. Deferential to Victor. She made everyone feel like she was on their side. I had once believed that too. The salad course came. Then the steaks. Then the moment I had been waiting for arrived without warning. Victor Hale stood to make his toast. He was 62 years old, silver-haired, with the kind of presence that filled a room without effort. He spoke about the company's growth. He named specific employees who had gone above and beyond. Then he turned in my direction. Alex Torres, he said. I felt the room shift. People looked at me. Diane tells me you've been handling the Meridian account reconciliation. That's complex work. She also mentioned you received a strong bonus this year. I hope it helped with your plans. The question was casual. It was meant to be kind. It was the opening I had prepared for but never truly expected to get. I looked at Diane. Her face was still smiling, but something had frozen in her eyes. She was watching me the way you watch an animal that might bite. I looked back at Victor. What bonus? I said. The room went quiet, not the quiet of emptiness. The quiet of a held breath. Victor's expression changed. He was not angry. He was curious. The performance bonus, he said. Diane submitted the paperwork herself. $15,000. You didn't receive it? I did not answer immediately. I let the silence work. This was the technique Patricia had taught me. When you have the truth, you do not need to rush. I received a letter, I said. The letter promised $15,000. The deposit was $7,500. I asked Diane about it in March. She said she would look into the clerical error. She never did. Victor looked at Diane. The whole table looked at Diane. Her smile had disappeared. There must be some confusion, she said. Her voice was steady but faster than normal. Alex, we can discuss this privately. I'm sure it's a simple payroll issue. Victor held up one hand. The gesture was small but it stopped her. No, he said. Let's understand this now. Alex, do you have the letter? I reached into my jacket pocket. I had carried it for 3 months, waiting for exactly this chance. I handed it to Victor. He read it twice. Then he looked at Diane. This matches what you submitted to HR, he said. It was not a question. Diane said nothing. The operations director asked if we should take this outside. Victor said no, we would finish it here. Victor sat back down. He did not look angry. He looked like a man who had just discovered his house was built on ground he had not inspected. Alex, he said, you said this was a clerical error. You said it in March. You did not escalate it. You did not come to me. You did not go to our. Why? I had prepared for this question too. Because I found other errors, I said. Errors that were not clerical. I needed to understand if they were mistakes or patterns before I accused anyone of anything. The HR manager leaned forward. What other errors? I looked at Victor, not at her. In January, I found 3 bonuses that exceeded performance metrics by significant amounts. The recipients were Diane's nephew and cousin. Total value $34,500. In February, I found 2 vendor payments to accounts that do not exist in our approved database. Addresses traced to Diane's personal contacts. Total value $26,000. In March, my own bonus was reduced by half with no explanation. The pattern suggested these were not errors. Diane stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor. This is outrageous, she said. Alex has been struggling with personal issues. I've been trying to protect their privacy, but clearly there's a problem here. These accusations are baseless and defamatory. She was good. Even now, she was trying to make this about my reliability instead of her numbers. Victor did not look at her. He was still looking at me. Do you have documentation? He asked. I reached into my other pocket and pulled out a USB drive. Patricia had helped me organize everything. Spreadsheets, emails, account records, timeline. This is a copy, I said. The originals are with my attorney. The documentation covers 18 months of irregular payments totaling $112,000. It includes the performance scores, the bonus approvals, the vendor creation dates, and the account tracing. It also includes my own bonus letter and payroll records showing the discrepancy. Victor took the drive. He held it like it was heavier than it looked. Victor turned to the HR manager. Call our general counsel. Tell him to come here immediately. Tell him to bring a laptop. Then he turned to Diane. Sit down, he said. His voice had changed. It was still quiet, but there was something underneath it that had not been there before. You will not speak again until I ask you to. Is that understood? Diane sat. Her face had gone pale. The rest of the table was frozen. The operations director started to say something about perhaps handling this privately. Victor cut him off. No, everyone here is senior leadership. Everyone here needs to see what happens when we fail to pay attention. Alex has been working in our accounting department for 4 years. They found this in their first year as a senior accountant. The question is not why Alex is telling us now. The question is how none of us saw it earlier. He looked at the USB drive in his hand. Alex, why did you wait? Why not come to me in January? I had asked myself this question 100 times. The answer was complicated, but I gave him the true one. Because I needed to know what kind of company this was, I said. If I came to you and you already knew, then you were part of it. If I came to you and you did not believe me, then the system would protect Diane and punish me. If I came to you and you did believe me, but you buried it to avoid scandal, then the truth would not matter. I needed to see what you would do when the truth was unavoidable. I needed to know if TransFlow was worth protecting. Victor was quiet for a long moment. The general counsel arrived, a man named Harold Yoon, carrying a briefcase and a laptop with the company seal on it. Victor handed him the USB drive without explanation. Harold plugged it in and started reading. The room waited. Harold's face changed as he scrolled. He looked up at Victor. This is extensive, he said. And well organized. If this is accurate, we have significant exposure. Criminal exposure, potentially. Victor nodded. He had already known. He had known from my face, from the USB drive, from the silence in the room. Victor stood again. He looked at the other leaders around the table. This dinner is over, he said. Everyone except Diane, Alex, and Harold, please leave. Do not discuss what you have heard until you receive guidance from legal. That is not a suggestion. They filed out. The operations director patted my shoulder as he passed. I could not tell if it was support or warning. When the door closed, Victor sat down across from me. Diane was still 3 seats away, but she looked smaller now. Diane, Victor said, you will be placed on administrative leave effective immediately. You will surrender your company devices and access cards to Harold before you leave this building. You will not contact any employees. You will not access any systems. Do you understand? Diane's voice was barely audible. Victor, I have given 15 years to this company. You know me. Victor's expression did not change. I thought I did, he said. That is what makes this worse. Harold escorted Diane out. The room was just Victor and me. He poured 2 glasses of water from the pitcher on the table. He handed me one. You took a significant risk, he said. If I had been different. If I had chosen to protect her, or the company, or myself. Your career would have ended tonight. I drank the water. My hands were steady, which surprised me. I know, I said. But my career was already ending. Every month I stayed quiet, I became someone I did not want to be. Someone who sees theft and calls it clerical error. Someone who lets fear replace principle. That person cannot do good work. That person cannot look in the mirror. Victor nodded slowly. Your bonus, he said. The missing $7,500. You will receive it, with interest, and an additional $15,000 for the delay and the trouble. I will sign the paperwork myself tomorrow. I did not thank him. It was not a gift. It was a debt being paid. Victor asked me to stay for another hour. He wanted to understand everything. How I found the pattern. Why I waited. What I thought should happen next. I told him about the dark blue notebook. I told him about Patricia Okonkwo. I told him about my father's story of the quiet man who saw everything. Victor listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said something I did not expect. I failed you, he said. I built this company to be clean, to be honest, and I let one person build a wall between me and the truth. That is not your failure. It is mine. I will not make it again. He asked me to help him rebuild the accounting controls. He asked me to review every bonus and vendor payment for the past 3 years. He asked me to train others to look for what I had found. I said yes to all of it. Not because I wanted power. Because I wanted to make sure this could not happen again. Because I wanted to believe that TransFlow could be what it claimed to be. The investigation took 4 months. Diane was terminated. The state attorney's office reviewed the case for criminal charges. Her nephew and cousin were questioned. They claimed they did not know the bonuses were improper. The money was clawed back through civil settlement. Diane's house went on the market. I did not follow the details closely. I was busy with the work Victor had asked me to do. We rebuilt the approval process. We added verification steps. We created an anonymous reporting line. I hired 2 new accountants and trained them myself. I told them the story of what had happened, not to frighten them, but to show them why the work mattered. In December, Victor promoted me to accounting manager. The raise was significant. The title meant less than the trust it represented. I thought about Diane sometimes. Not with anger, with something closer to understanding. She had been good at her job once. She had been a good mentor to me, in ways that were real. Then she found a gap in the system and decided to use it. That decision had cost her everything. In February of 2025, I received an email from Diane. It came to my personal account. She wanted to meet for coffee. She wanted to explain. I did not respond for 3 days. Then I asked Patricia what I should do. She said it was my choice, but that I should remember that explanations are often requests for forgiveness disguised as information. I decided to meet her. Not for her, for me. To see if I could look at her without feeling the old confusion. We met at a coffee shop near the old office. She looked smaller, older. The confidence that had filled rooms was gone. She talked about her divorce. About her debts. About the pressure she had felt to provide for family who expected her to be successful. She never said she was sorry. She said she wished I had come to her first. I listened. Then I told her one thing. You asked me in my interview if I could keep my mouth shut when I knew something important. I said yes. I was wrong. I can keep my mouth shut about small things. About gossip. About mistakes that can be fixed. But not about theft. Not about lies. That is not silence. That is complicity. I left the coffee shop and walked to the office. It was a Saturday, so the building was empty. I sat at my desk, the same desk where I had found the first irregular payment 14 months before. The silence was waiting, as it always was. But now it felt different. Not threatening, just present. I thought about what I had learned. That trust is not a feeling. It is a structure. That good people can do bad things when the structure fails. That the quietest person in the room often sees the most, but seeing is only the first step. The second step is harder. The second step is speaking. I opened my email and wrote to Victor. I told him I was grateful for the chance to rebuild. I told him I believed in what we were making. I told him I would keep watching, because that was the job. He wrote back in 10 minutes. That is why I trust you. Not because you found the problem. Because you stayed to fix it. In March, the company held its annual meeting. Victor spoke to all 83 employees. He told them what had happened. Not in detail, but honestly. He said the company had failed to protect itself from internal theft. He said one employee had found the problem and given leadership the chance to fix it. He did not name me. I had asked him not to. I did not want to be the story. I wanted the story to be about what we built after. He announced new controls, new training, a new bonus structure that was transparent and verified. He said the company was stronger now because it had been tested and had chosen to change. The employees applauded. I stood in the back and watched. Diane had been good at making people feel seen. Victor was learning to do the same thing, but with truth instead of performance. That was the difference. That was what made it real. I want to tell you what this experience taught me, because I did not go through 18 months of documentation and preparation just to have a story. I did it because the work we do matters, and when we let it be corrupted, we lose something bigger than money. We lose the belief that effort is rewarded fairly. We lose the trust that makes a workplace into a community. Dishonesty does not announce itself. It arrives politely, asks reasonable questions, and makes you feel foolish for noticing. The people who take from systems rather than contribute to them will always find a way to make their interest sound like necessity. They will talk about family, about pressure, about how everyone does it. Do not let them. Watch for the patterns. Keep your own records. Trust the people who show up without an agenda and work without calculation. And if you find a gap in the system, do not use it. Report it, fix it, protect what honest work builds. My name is Alex Torres. I am 31 years old. I manage the accounting department at a logistics company in Denver. I still work late sometimes when the office is quiet and the spreadsheets are waiting. But now I am not alone in the silence. 2 desks down, a new accountant named Jordan is learning to hear what numbers say. I am teaching them the difference between a balanced sheet and a manipulated one. I am teaching them that the most important skill is not knowing when to speak, but knowing when silence becomes complicity. Victor still visits monthly. He still sits at the head of the table at leadership dinners. But now he asks different questions. He asks what we are watching for. He asks what we have found. He asks if the system is clean. And every time, I tell him the truth. Because that is the job. Because that is what I learned. Because that is who I chose to become. If this story meant something to you, leave a 2 in the comments so I know you stayed with me through the whole thing. And if you know someone who needs to hear it, share it with them. Some messages find the people who need them. If you liked this story, like it and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Then hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification button so you don't get to miss any story.